Hello, everyone. We're just going to give people a couple minutes till we see that we have everybody. So just bear with us. Okay, we'll give it another minute. We have lots of people that just joined us, so. Okay, I think we're going to begin. We've stopped having some new people come, so welcome. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I am very excited to be talking about parks in the Riverside neighborhood, as I'm sure you are too. Parks are very important to St. Albert residents, and with this pandemic, I think they've become even more important to us. My name is Margot Brenneis. I'm the park planning specialist for the City of St. Albert, and I am your moderator for tonight. So as the moderator, one of the key things I need to do is go over a few housekeeping items. So first of all, your role as a participant. Sit back, relax, enjoy the presentation. All participants are muted, but we are taking questions through the Q&A panel at the bottom right corner of your screen. So please submit questions throughout the presentation and we'll be answering them at the end. The chat function is something too that is on your screen that you are able to use and share ideas with your neighbors. We ask you to be respectful in your language and open-minded. City staff will be monitoring the site, but again, use the Q&A to submit questions to the panelists. There is an online survey that we have to share your feedback on the proposed concepts. And this survey will be open to you until December 8th. And we will give you the link if you don't have it already at the end. So this is something I need to read word for word, so bear with me. This session is being recorded by the City of St. Albert and is intended to be shared and posted on the city websites or through the social media platforms. In addition, the city will retain this recording for internal retention purposes related to administering the city's public participation events. The personal information collected during this session is protected by the provisions of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Last but not least, we hope that there's going to be no technical glitches tonight, but if there are, please be patient with us. We are getting pretty used to using Zoom. So we have a great team here tonight to help support this project. And I do want to take a minute to introduce everybody. From the City of St. Albert, Manda Wild, Donna Hinchy, Monty Bajold, Justin Van Dorp, Lenore Mitchell, and from ISL Engineering, Kirsten Arnold, and Jennifer Esler. So again, we ask you to submit questions throughout the presentation, which we will answer at the end of the night. I'm going to hand it over now to Manda Wild. Manda, take it away.
Thank you very much, everyone. And as Margot said, my name is Manda Wild. I'm the Senior Project Manager for Parks Development for the City of St. Albert, and I'll be helping shepherd this project through to completion. I do have a presentation to share with you today. It'll take about 20 minutes, give or take. So as Margot mentioned a couple of times, please do submit your questions throughout the presentation. We're excited to walk through this with you today and hear your ideas and thoughts. So just bear with me as I get the presentation going. There we go. And I'm hoping that you can see this. All right. So just a quick overview of what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to really briefly walk through the park planning process, so how we plan parks in the city of St. Albert, go a little bit over what we use to make decisions, talk about the Riverside Area Structure Plan and the changes that were made, walk through some of the proposals we have in those revised concept drawings you may have already encountered online, talk about next steps for the project and for the neighborhood, and then we'll open it up for questions. So a little bit of background on why we're here tonight is, as you know, in 2018, the City of St. Albert approved the original Riverside Parks Master Plan, which aims to ensure quality and diverse parks and open spaces within the Riverside neighborhood that will meet the needs of residents, and continue to provide quality of life for all. The area structure plan was amended by council in March of 2020, which did alter some of those park spaces. So now we need to come back to you to help you get your input to shape the future of those changed spaces within Riverside. So there is a lot of information to cover tonight, and we know that there are a lot of concerns. Things like what is the next development in Riverside? When is the commercial area going to be developed? Questions around transportation and roads. Some of these questions are not really what we're here to talk about tonight. So if you have those type of questions, please do submit them. We may not be able to answer them tonight, but we will follow up with a frequently asked questions function on the webpage after tonight's meeting. So just to go really quickly through how the city plans parks, we follow a multi-phased approach to park development. First, we have our area structure plan, and what that really does is sets the location, configuration, and size for all park spaces that are to be developed in the future. And we do understand that this plan has changed since a lot of our residents have moved in, and it can be really difficult when plans change. The master plan that we're planning right now does reflect the best available information that we have at this time, but it is possible that the area structure plan could be amended in the future. This neighborhood plan is a greater than 20-year plan, and the housing market and recreation needs of the neighborhood can change within that time. Any landowner has the ability to apply to change the use of their lands. It is a public process and ultimately a city council decision if the area structure plan is changed. So this plan may be amended if the park spaces are substantially changed into the future. We don't know of any changes upcoming, and we're going with the best available information, but we did want to bring up that we understand that there's some frustration, and you've already been asked some of these questions before, and we're just trying to keep this information and this plan as current and relevant as we can as the neighborhood continues to build out. So the phase that we're in right now is the park master plan. It outlines all of the park spaces that are to be constructed and identifies the amenities for each park that the city will construct as the parks are made available to us by the developer. This process allows the city to provide a wide variety of spaces within the neighborhood and plans for the neighborhood as a whole rather than park by park. So you get a little bit more diversity in your parks as we look at it as a whole. Once the park master plan has completed and the park sites are near development, we do move towards detailed design. The master plan is used as the basis for detailed design for each park as they are ready for enhancement. It is when we do this process, the detailed design process, it is dependent on the pace of development and is the result of the developer moving forward on the subdivision for the park area. And it normally occurs 1 to 2 years before we're ready to construct. All design and construction is dependent on approved capital funding, and it's never guaranteed. So detailed design really confirms the concept plan and then works through all of the technical details and requirements to enable us to construct the park. It provides detailed locations, sizes, and specifics for the chosen amenity, and then more accurately forecasts the final construction cost as well. Construction then follows with timing for completion of each site depending on the complexity of the amenities that we are providing, the weather, and all those kind of things that impact construction. Most of our park sites can be constructed within one construction season, but sometimes that does bleed over into 2 different seasons. Parks are then monitored and maintained and replaced through the city's life cycle program. So public engagement and your input is really critical to how we make sustainable decisions as the neighborhood grows. We generally consider 4 areas of input when we talk about sustainable decisions. So the first is that area of publicly acceptability, and that's where your input is really critical. It's where we understand what the needs and desires of the community are, what potential impacts there are to nearby residences, and what are the broader recreation needs does the city have that could be accommodated within your neighborhood. We also look at environmental sustainability. Are there environmental constraints or opportunities associated with any of those park spaces? So that can be anything from issues with drainage to protection of tree cover, to all kinds of opportunities to enhance the biodiversity and ecological health of our city. The next area is that technical feasibility. And that's really related to the park's size, configuration, and location. What is the availability of water, power, sewer, or sanitary lines? What are the policies, standards, and guidelines that we need to adhere to as we design and build our parks? And then finally, financial feasibility, which is, more and more critical as we move through more and more constrained times and as we deal with the recession that we're currently experiencing. It's not only what budget is available for construction that we consider, but also what are the long-term repair, maintenance, and replacement costs, the operational costs, and are those costs going to be reasonable, and are they in line with other similar parks across the city? So the input gathered during this phase of the project really just supports us in making effective and sustainable long-term decisions. So I'm just going to really briefly show you some of the changes that were made in 2020 with the new area structure plan. So the major change that happened is this small park here with Neighborhood Park 4 was enlarged and increased to include a school site and is now called Riverside Park or Community Park 2. There is an addition of a potential future road that comes across here on the urban square that wasn't called for in the original area structure plan. Neighborhood Park 3, which was originally in the southwest corner, all that land was reallocated to make Riverside Park large enough for a school site. There were slight changes to the size of Neighborhood Park 1 in the north here. It's gotten a little bit smaller, again, to make that Riverside Park viable. And then a little bit of change here in Neighborhood Park to how it's shaped and how it connects to nearby residences. I'm just going to talk briefly. One thing that we've heard a lot from this neighborhood and is really important to people who are purchasing homes in this neighborhood is connectivity. We understand that people want access to the river and want lots of opportunities to interact with the natural environment. This neighborhood is really blessed to have direct access to Red Willow Park, as well as the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park, as those two pieces of land are developed for public access. The plan does call for excellent trail and sidewalk connectivity. As you can see on your screen, the black dash lines show all of the different connections through trails and pathways. So all of our parks will be connected by trails, all of our stormwater management facilities, and all of our walkways all lead down towards that major trail system planned for the Red Willow Park and Grey Nuns White Spruce Park area. So at this point, I'm going to hand this over to Kirsten Arnold. She is our senior landscape architect, and she's working with us from ISL Engineering, and she's going to talk about the proposed new park designs.
Thank you, Manda. Do you want my video on? I wasn't sure.
Yes, please.
Yes, so everybody can see me. Okay. So yeah, tonight we're going to start with, as Amanda said, Riverside Park, Community Park number 2. It was the one that had the most significant change. The area structure plan calls for a joint school site on this community park. That school site parcel is about 1.8 hectares. So it takes a large chunk, but there's still, I believe it's 2 hectares left or just under for the community park. And this is sorry. The school will be on Rankin Drive, so we're trying to keep it from as far away from the existing residents as possible. But due to the size of the school, we've had to take out a number of the items. So in the new design, we're including a playground with seating areas. Under age 12 soccer fields will fit in there nicely. Potential sliding hill, plantings between all the amenities, and the trails will be connected coming from Red Willow on the east through to all the way to the west and then around. So you've got good connectivity through there. There will be landscaping behind the toboggan hill and along the fence lines of the existing residents, trying to create that buffer there. As is shown here right now, that the trail it is at the closest, I think about 6 meters, but the playground there will allow for all ages. And we understand that the school may be adding to that playground zone. Let's see. I think that is about it for that change. I guess for the school, we don't know what what the age limits will be. So that may affect some of the amenities as well, but they will come through once the school board is decided in the age group for that school. Additional amenities may be added, such as tarmacs for basketball courts and additional trail linkages, anything that's associated with the future school. So Maddie, you can change the next one. Oh, there's the Urban Square. Sorry, I'm looking at another screen. So the size and location of the Urban Square hasn't changed from the original, although it has changed in the feel of it. So the original design no longer fit with the vision, the developer's vision for the neighborhood. The existing design was both more costly to construct and operate. Therefore, they're considering the city's capital budgets. They've gone to a softer feel and a little more fitting with the Greenlands Park to the south. The new design aligns much more strongly with the city's goals related to the climate change mitigation and opportunities to increase the tree canopy. As well, this new addition, the changes of this changes the character of the site, but we are still looking at allowing several of the different opportunities that we had before. So a plaza space that connects to the commercial, as well as potential locations for some of the sport courts, but they'd be more in a turf setting, so more natural setting. And the future or the potential roadway does change the character of the site, and it unfortunately required rethinking to ensure residents would be safe, and the design would make sense with potential road. This design has much less concrete paved surfaces and adds more planting areas. It retains the original intent of the gathering spot, as I mentioned, the plaza, with seating, possibly covered areas for shade, connects well still with the commercial area and the nearby residents. Next. Neighborhood Park 2, as Amanda said, hasn't changed. Size-wise, it really hasn't changed much, but we do have now connectivity from the roadway through to the other adjacent roadways. So it has changed alignment a little bit. We still want to keep hard play tarmac surface with it'll be unprogrammed, but we have seating around there, and then open unprogrammed play space, green space, and then we're looking at the off-leash dog park use permitted in that open area, which was originally in Park 3. So there'd be planting in small berms to support additional privacy to the nearby homes. Next. The Conservation Park. This site is meant to protect and enhance the existing natural tree stand. This site is slightly smaller and now borders a roadway. And so the proposed natural play structures were moved away from the roadway just for a safer element. The entry would be an entry node added to the front of the park, and the proposed trail changed from gravel to asphalt, just to ensure it's more universally accessible. Further into the space, we would be looking at adding the seating nodes and potentially some smaller natural play elements as you move through along that walkway. And as well, there's opportunities to further naturalize and enhance the tree stand through the city's naturalization program and potential other partnerships. Community Park 1. All right. This one hasn't changed a lot. The school site has reduced in size from 2 hectares to 1.8. We still are looking at potentially a baseball or soccer field, a social play surface or ice surface, outdoor rink, and then a smaller toboggan hill, which was shifted slightly just to accommodate the school layout, potential layout. Again, the school site may include tarmac playgrounds or other amenities as they move through their development. All right, neighborhood park 1. That one, as mentioned, it has reduced in size, but it does have connectivity now through from one road to the next, so to the adjacent sidewalks. It has the reason it has gotten smaller is just due to the reallocation of land for the new community park and school site. But there's still plenty of room to accommodate the seating areas, sheltered picnic tables, and a playground that would range from the ages of 18 months through to the 12 years. So that is actually quite a large playground there. Again, planting and berming would provide privacy to the adjacent homes. I think that's
Okay. Next steps. Thank you very much also, Kirsten and Amanda, for all of that information. So to talk about next steps, the project team is planning on completing the master plan in January 2021. So taking the feedback and the survey questions and answers that we got today and revising the concept plans for the parks and completing that by January 2021, because we want to be able to go to the detailed design of Riverside Park as soon as possible and complete that in April 2021 and lead us into construction of the Riverside Park in the summer, fall in 2021. The city is doing this in partnership with Genstar Developments, and we're going to be constructing the park portion of the school community park. Based on the final concept and approved funding, we hope to get the majority of the construction completed in 2021. However, we may have to phase this into 2022, again, based on what the final concept is going to be. But that's very exciting news for everybody. We will look at the project website, keeping you very up to date on where we're at in the Riverside Park detailed design and construction. Okay, questions. So at this point, we're going to be responding to some of the questions we have received. As previously mentioned, if we don't get to your question tonight, we will be updating the project web pages with responses shortly after tonight. We are going to look at the trends of our questions and hopefully answer them as completely as we can. Okay, the first question, and Amanda, I believe I'm going to send this to you. The question is, will reforestation happen in the park areas to replace the tree stands that were clear cut along McKinney Avenue by the developer?
That's a really good question. In all of our park spaces, we look for opportunity to increase tree canopy. So we will be looking for opportunities to introduce native species and increase the tree canopy throughout all of the park spaces in the neighborhood. As well, we will look towards that tree stand in the conservation park to increase the tree canopy and make sure that stays nice and healthy. And then the work through the Greynuns White Spruce Park project will also add more tree cover into the neighborhood. That's a great question.
Okay. Stay on here, Amanda. The next question is, will the Community Park 2 park area be smaller after the school site is built?
Oh, you guys have great questions. So the way that our guidelines are stated is that our school sites are 1.8 hectares, so that dashed line that you see on that concept drawing, and then the community park site is 2 hectares. We work really closely with the school boards and Alberta Infrastructure as they propose new schools to make sure that they're staying within that 1.8 hectare. They often add recreation amenities and green space into the school builds on the school site as well. So no, it's not anticipated that the school site will encroach onto the community park portion at all. But we will continue to work with Alberta Infrastructure and the school boards once that school build is announced to make sure that that's kept nice and green.
Okay, next question. Kirsten, I'll leave it to you, and Amanda, you may need to add on. The question is, what is the reasoning behind the placement of the soccer field in Community Park 2? It seems dangerously close to the road. Has parking been considered for soccer families?
Okay, the soccer fields, the design now is just, it's preliminary, so it can be moved. What I was really looking for to see if it would fit on the site. In discussions with Amanda and the recreation department, we were looking for a location for the playground, and it seemed to be better to be a little further back so we could tie into the future school. So that left the soccer field closer to the roadway. Yeah, there is an option to flip those elements. As far as parking, don't think there will be any on-site parking. It'll be on the road, or there will be an adjacent school, and I'm not sure how those work out. Maybe Amanda, you can, if you have any experience with dealing with the schools and parking.
For sure. So in terms of parking for the short term or the interim until the school is built, our community parks normally don't have parking lots for specifically for soccer fields. We typically only have parking lots for outdoor rinks or other amenities that might draw large amounts of people. So it'll be on-street parking until the school is built, and then once the school is built, our soccer teams and those are all free to use the school parking in the evenings and on the weekends when school is not in session.
Okay, the next question is, and Amanda, this one will probably go to you. Why is there no skating surface in Community Park 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. Before I go, I will just share that we have been joined by Shane Lepke of GenStar Developments. So we do have Shane available to answer questions as well. So, but going back to why we didn't propose an outdoor rink in Community Park 2, it was largely due to the site configuration. Lacombe Lake Park, although we understand that the ice there isn't as available as some of our outdoor rinks, it has a shorter season. We felt that it was quite close. It's within walking distance of Community Park 2. And outdoor rinks are quite expensive to build and maintain. So having one in the neighborhood is closely aligned to our standards. We were also concerned, as there have been a number of residents living nearby for quite a number of years already, that introducing an amenity that does have lights and does draw people from other areas of the neighborhood might cause concern. So I think we could certainly go back and look at it. However, we are constrained with space on this site, the way that it is laid out. So we'd have to lose another amenity in order to do so.
Great. Okay, next question, and this is for you, Kirsten. What would be the vertical height of the toboggan hill in Community Park 2?
Good question. It hasn't been determined yet. I'd have to go through the detailed design. I did some very, very preliminary numbers based on the space that we have there, what I'm showing, and the run out. You have to have a safe run out at the bottom of the hill. So based on that, at max about 3.5 meters, and I would look at probably creating some even lower for the, with a less of a steep slope for variety of ages.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, and Amanda and Kirsten again, in Community Park 2, why are the paths and seating areas so close to the neighboring houses? What is the plan to provide a buffer between the public and private spaces, as well as the plan to avoid littering and noise when the seating area is right behind the neighbor's fence? So you
wanna go
guys can
first,
flip a
Kirsten?
coin.
Sure. Well, just based on the configuration of the park and where the school parcel is, that creates that linear linkage between the walkways to the west and to the east. So it makes sense to have the walk along there and with some seating. But of course, we're going to try and keep them as far away from the residents as as possible, but still creating a comfortable walking experience for other people. Sometimes they feel it feels safe to know that there's residents nearby as you're walking. But we'll also use planting and berming to create a screen for the residential residents.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. It was a great question. It does look really close on these drawings. It scale is a little bit hard to tell, so it's not right up against anyone's back fence or anything like that. But we do have to maximize the amount of green space when we have a school adjacent. They have a lot of needs for open green space, a lot of needs for kids to run and play. So that does limit our options for how trails and where they can go with. And still allow lots of space for kids to run and play. So that's the reason they are a little bit tucked a little bit closer on that north side towards the housing as well.
Okay, great. So Kirsten, question is, will trees in the conservation park be existing trees or newly planted?
There would be existing trees, as well as we would add planting through the detailed design. As well as I mentioned, there are opportunities for partnerships to do some planting, and then the city's naturalization programs as well.
Great. Okay, next question. Can the plan be adjusted to include a looping trail back to Riverside Drive or Rankin? Amanda or Kirsten?
Oh, so a loop. Yeah, I mean, it depends on how the school parcel works out. I mean, possibly they would create a walk that would fall along that eastern edge, creating that walk along from the sidewalks through. But there's also, I mean, that would, we'd have to look at, the school would have to look at if they want to create that connection.
Anything else to add, Amanda? That?
No, I would suggest that Kirsten has it correct. It's very difficult for us without knowing what this will look like to fully loop a trail. I will point out as well, it's not easy to see on the drawings, but if you can see this gray line here, that's all sidewalk alongside Rankin and Riverside Drive.
Right.
So there will be walkways along both of those roads. So you could quite easily do a nice loop around the park just using the public sidewalk and the trail system together.
Okay, quick question to Kirsten. Is the soccer field a full size or is it U12? What age group is that soccer field for?
That is drawn as U12.
Great, that was quick and easy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Amanda, this one is for you and it's to explain a little bit more with regards to the decision to place the ice surface on Community Park 1 rather than Community Park 2, just because of that area south of McKinney. Park 2 is the only recreation area south of McKinney.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that these are all proposed drawings. We have not in any way made any decisions yet. So this is part of the process is we're coming to you with a proposal and you're telling us what we're missing or what we've got wrong. And so we'll certainly go back and reassess. As I mentioned, there were a number of reasons. The proximity to Lacombe Lake Park, the cost of maintaining 2 outdoor rinks in one neighborhood is quite substantial, not only to construct, but also to maintain and then replace as needed. It would, like I said, require us removing, either the soccer field or a toboggan hill. We know for school sites that soccer fields or open green space is a priority. So we'd have to reassess trail alignments and amenities and really make sure everything would fit on the site if we were to include an outdoor rink. And unfortunately, that also might mean bringing an outdoor rink closer to the residences than we prefer to do. So it's not out of the question, but it is a little bit challenging with this site for sure to make that work.
Great. Okay, the next one, Lenore. And I'm not sure if you have this information, but we'll see. You can always get back to the person. So the question is, we would like to know what is being built behind us on Rankin Drive. We were told it would be 2-story homes. It looks like that has changed. So it's what the district is for that. So Lenore is with Planning Department.
So on Rankin Drive, not knowing where the person is speaking about, there are semi-detached along Rankin Drive. And they're semi-detached. Is districted R2 at this rate today. And then we have a zoning that is being proposed for the area. And Amanda has a map that we can put up for that. I'll just get the right map up.
Is that the right one, Lenore?
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So the dark gray is right now being proposed to go from R1 to RX. And some of that is along Rankin. So the RX is still a single and 2-family district. It's smaller lots than what is in the R1 district. This is a new district that council approved back in 2018. So a lot of developers are now using this because it has a more variety of housing product. So basically that is what's happening where the dark gray color is and the black outline. So it's still low density. It's not a high density.
Great. Thank you, Lenore. All right. Kirsten, the question is, what size trees are being planted along fence lines? And what is the concern around shade blocking neighborhoods' yards?
Well, be a variety, well, a variety of sizes trees. Obviously they go in quite a bit younger, so we're looking city standards we have to work within. So 50 millimeter caliper, so that's as a deciduous tree. That's not that large, it's maybe a couple meters high, as well as any of the coniferous trees, so or spruce and pine. Again, 2 to 3 meter heights. We'll keep things away from the fence, but we still take in consideration the sight lines for everybody, both into the site as well as out. So obviously going in, they'll be small, but as they grow, you're going to get some larger trees. But
Great.
not sure.
So to add to that, we do plant our trees a minimum of a little bit wider than 72 inches from fence lines, and that's just to make sure we can get a mower back there and keep it nice and tidy. And we do try and plant our trees such a way that they won't be dropping needles or dropping leaves too badly into any neighborhood, any neighboring fences. The buffer trees are there to provide a little bit of privacy. They don't create a full screen. So as Kirsten mentioned, we can keep sightlines between backyards and into the park and vice versa. And that's just an application of the crime prevention through environmental design principles or SEPTED principles.
Great, thank you. Next question is there a thought when the neighborhood will connect to the grain elevator? So I guess if we want that along sort of Rankin or Meadowview, who wants to answer that one?
Maybe I'll start and then maybe I can ask Shane to jump in after, if that works. He's not waving at me, so hopefully he heard me. So the transportation network is still under, I would say, consideration. You'll see in the area structure plan, Meadowview Lane is a hatched road that is a potential secondary access. So the idea is to not have access directly through the elevators or grain elevators area, but to bring people into Mission along that Meadowview Lane alignment. That is kind of a proposed road. There are no solid plans for that right now. But I'd invite Lenore or Shane to jump in and add any more information.
No, you're correct, because we also have to work with CN because we're only allowed so many crossings. And so at this time, it is unfunded, and you hit it right on the head, Manda. Thank you.
Great. Okay, this one is for Amanda. Question is, what is considered for lights along the paths in Community Park 2? Given the paths are so close to the fence line, how will you avoid light pollution from encroaching on private spaces?
That's a great question. In the city of St. Albert, in community parks, we do not light our pathways, generally speaking. We rely on ambient light and street lighting to provide adequate light, so there wouldn't be any lights into backyards. In fact, the only amenity that we consistently light is outdoor rings.
Great, thank you. This one is for Kirsten. Is there an opportunity to have gravel access paths in the community park or in conservation park, sorry?
My understanding is that the last plan did have the gravel trails, being as it was a longer park and meandered through it. But in this case, we've got a shorter area, and we're really looking at keeping it and moving it to an asphalt trail, so it is more accessible.
Okay, great. Remember to some of these questions or input, please complete the survey because this will give us valuable information. And this is another one for Kirsten. Can a basketball court and hoops be added to Community Park 2?
That's I would think that there's possibly room for that. That would be something, if you put it down in the survey as something that we're looking for, we could certainly look at making room for it. It possibly would sacrifice some other elements, but as mentioned, the school would possibly put in an asphalt tarmac for hard play services elements such as basketball or I don't know what's that new one they always play now. Depends on the age group, of course, with the school. So,
okay, great. So the next question too, and it's would there be other options to a toboggan hill? Again, I remind people that that's where we want to hear those ideas about what else you think you would like to see added. That is what the survey we want to capture. So really important. Does anybody have anything to add to that? But again, yes, that's why we're here tonight. We want to look and get some feedback from residents about if there is other amenities you'd like us to consider.
No, that was great, Margot.
Okay. So the question is, I understand Riverside will have higher density properties. Being so close to the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park, I am concerned about increased disruption to breeding birds and the native area. What is being done to mitigate impacts to breeding birds, and how will this be monitored before and after the development in Riverside? So I'm not sure, this is more of a development. If Shane is able to answer that from Gentstar.
Hello, sorry, what was the question again?
Okay, I understand Riverside will have higher density properties. Being so close to the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park, I am concerned about increased disruption to breeding birds and the native area. What is being done to mitigate impacts to breeding birds, and how will this be monitored before and after the development in Riverside?
Well, that's a darn good question. We have had, well, Alberta Environment involved in this, but as far as the species of trees, or the species of birds, I will probably have to get back to you on that one. I wouldn't be able to give a good answer on that one.
Okay. Anybody else
Margot?
have anything? Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you want to speak to how we're managing access in Greylands as part of
Yeah.
that question?
So this would be one that when we're looking at any construction of parks, or even the Greylands White Spruce Park and the future plans for that, is any construction is monitored and a bird studies done before any construction, so that we understand what kind of wildlife birds are there, and we ensure that there is no construction being done during any of those key times. So that's really something the city follows very completely with regards to ensuring that we protect those valuable wildlife. Okay. Okay, this one is more of a traffic, but I'll put it out there, sorry. The question is, have any discussions been made regarding opening up Rankin Drive to Mission Avenue to help control school traffic around Community Park 2?
So,
Excellent. Lenore, did you want to?
Lenore?
yeah, in a way, we've sort of talked about this a bit before, because Rankin Drive is Meadowview Drive. It's been realigned and renamed. And so that's the road that would take you over to Mission. And that's it right now in the area structure plan, it's shown as hatched, because we haven't, we still have to look at the connectivity and working with CN to get a crossing. So that's where it's at. And we talked about this maybe about 5 minutes ago.
Great. Okay. The next question is, can you consider flipping the playground and soccer field in Community Park 2? So again, this is the kind of feedback that if you can submit in the survey is really important for us to understand and to get some of these ideas. We can look at reallocating and redistributing certain amenities, but definitely some of these ideas and what you think you would like to see them is what the survey will definitely want to capture. Does anybody else have anything to add? Okay, all right. Lenore, this one is definitely for you. Is R1 districting outdated?
Depends on your opinion. It is one of our older districts, and with the newer districts of the RX and RXL, they are meant for a smaller lot product. And based on the what people can get mortgages for in that, the smaller lot product is something that people can still get a single family house with. So a lot of developers will be going with these newer districts.
Okay, stay on here, Lenore. The next question is also for you. Does RX include a 5-unit townhouse complex?
No. And all our districts are actually on the city webpage under the land use bylaw, and under part 8 is our residential district. So you could have a look at what is the permitted and discretionary uses. That's one way to look and see really what is allowed in those districts.
Great, thank you. The next one is there no roadway connecting to the grain elevators? I think we just talked about some of that connection up high, but will there be a pathway or sidewalk to give us access to the downtown area on foot? So I can talk about maybe the trail along the river in the future. And Amanda, maybe if you want to put the trail connectivity map up, that would maybe help. So this is something we definitely want and are looking at for the Riverside neighborhood. Just going to have Manda put up that the trail map if she can in the presentation, because that will help highlight. So in our 10-year capital plan, we do have the Red Willow Park West, the whole Meadowview construction, which is the area from Ray Gibbon Drive to the Trestle Bridge. So we are looking at a trail connection. There we go. That has your notes too. There we go. Okay. So this project is broken up into 2 phases. The first phase is the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park. So this includes trails within the forest area, a multi-use trail around, and granular and wood chip trails. Includes a nature play area, picnic shelter, picnic site, and some outdoor classrooms. So this is the first phase and is in the 10-year capital plan proposed for construction in 2021. And then what we have next is this trail connection from Grey Nuns White Spruce Park all the way along the river to the Trestle Bridge. And this will be the key connection to Riverside residents to the downtown area. And again, it's in the 10-year capital plan proposed for 2023. Is there anything else we need to add with that?
Yeah, I will just want to share for those that just haven't noticed, the trail connections on either side of McKinney Avenue have been completed this year. So there's now a pedestrian rail crossing as you come across the CN rail tracks on McKinney from pedestrian access. And as this kind of Meadowview Lane alignment does get sorted, the goal would be, should Meadowview Lane become a secondary access, that there would also be an additional pedestrian crossing at the CN rail. Again, that's still kind of theoretical and not confirmed. But if that access does come to fruition, we would make sure that there were pedestrian access as well as vehicle traffic along there.
Margot, could I just clarify one thing? I rethought of what someone just asked about the townhousing. So in our RX and RXUL, you can have street oriented townhousing. So, but they're not, I think someone talked about height, but it was, or was it the number of units? Do you know what that question was again?
Oh, you're muted there, Margot.
Does RX include a 5-unit townhouse complex?
Okay, sorry, I kept thinking height they were talking about. So my apologies for not hearing it correctly. So townhousing, street-oriented townhousing is a use that can happen in the RX, yes. So, but again, you can still go on our webpage to check out those uses. And so I'm sorry, I didn't catch it correctly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lenore. So there's a couple questions here and there are more ideas. And again, there was one about, is it possible to have a gazebo type open shelter in Community Park 2 that neighbors can use year round? And the other one is an outdoor rink to Community Park 2. Both of those, again, that's what tonight is all about, is for you to identify if there are some other ideas that you'd like us to consider. So when we talk at the end about the survey, this is really important information for you to give us. Again, any other kind of amenity, we may have to take out some ones, but this is why we want to hear from you. So all of those things are viable. We just want to hear them from the survey and see then if that is something that the generally residents would like.
Margot, if I could just add on that, as we're getting these lots of great ideas for Community Park 2, we would ask that you keep in mind for your feedback that we do have to make sure that it is complementary with anywhere from a kindergarten to a grade 9 school. So anything that we put in does need to kind of fit with that, and so we will take that into consideration. So some things may not be possible just because of concerns or the amenities that we have to take out that's not as complementary with the school use. So absolutely community use is a focus for this site, but that community use does need to be complementary to the future school use.
Good point. Thanks, Amanda. This question, Amanda, how will crime be mitigated in Conservation Park?
Absolutely. It's an excellent question. We are very, very fortunate in St. Albert to have very little incidences of vandalism, incidences of inappropriate behavior. We do know that forested areas are a little bit of a target for people that want to get away from eyes. It is surrounded by residents that will have chain link fencing as per our standards. So that will help bring eyes into the site that aren't necessarily the general public, but the residences nearby. But I think the easiest answer to that is that we're really fortunate as a community. People behave really well in our ravines. We recently asked our youth advisory committee earlier this year if they felt safe and if there were spaces that they were uncomfortable to be in, or that they experienced issues as youth even. And the ravines were highlighted as even the ravines, which are heavily forested and surrounded by homes, are felt as quite safe. So it's certainly something that we'll be mindful of, but we are a very fortunate community in people behaving appropriately in our parks, and the incidences that happen are minor and not that frequent.
Great, thank you. Question for Kirsten. Could the seating area in Community Park 2 be moved to a place along the path that is more central to the field?
Yeah, through the detailed design, we can definitely look at relocating those elements so that they're more central, and parents can use them to visualize, watch their kids doing various activities. So we can definitely look at that.
Great. Amanda, question. Why is there only one park south of McKinney Avenue? I understand Grey Nuns Park is considered green space, but this is not the same as playgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. I will ask Shane Lepke to jump in as well. The size, location, and configuration of all of our parks is set through the work of our planning department alongside the developers. So when we take these master plans, we have to accept council's decision and work within the framework we're given. Grey Nuns White Spruce Park is considered a municipal reserve dedication south of McKinney Ave, so you do have two major spaces. Grey Nuns White Spruce Park won't have a traditional play space, but it will have a nature investigation area, and it'll provide great play opportunities through all of the trails and the picnic shelter. So not necessarily structured play opportunities, but Grey Nuns White Spruce Park, once it's built, will have great opportunities for play.
Great.
Shane, do you want to comment a little bit on kind of how you came to
Sure.
configuration?
Yeah, so as an obligation, the developers have to give up 10% for municipal reserve. And then through consultation with administration, there's discussion on what the important park space is. And of course, school sites, there are 2 school sites identified in Riverside, and those essentially have to be a certain size. I believe it's 9 acres roughly as a minimum. And so then the remaining area that we have left to dedicate for municipal reserve, we spread out. And essentially we just, there's also minimum MR parcel that are acceptable. So we just sort of divvy up little pocket parks throughout the neighborhood. And this is a scenario that worked out. So yeah, we do understand that we could use a few more park spaces scattered throughout. I believe it was even in the eastern portion. But again, there were some constraints on how that gets divvied up.
Okay, great.
Thanks,
Shane.
I think also important to add to that is the Grey Nun White Spruce Park is municipal reserve, and it was an important park to keep, and a lot of the land dedication is in that park.
Great. Okay, Shane, don't go anywhere because this one is for you. The question is, the residential fencing north of Community Park 2 is currently chain link only. Will they consider allowing residents to build wood fencing to separate them from the park space. You're muted. Sorry, you're muted, Shane.
Sorry about that. Which is Park 2 again?
That's the new school site,
Oh, okay.
school park site.
Could we put that up?
Sorry, Lenore, you're faster than I am.
Okay, so the question is there an opportunity for fence screen as opposed to chain link?
Mm-hmm.
So we've already started the chain link fencing closer to the northeast side. Yeah, that vicinity there. And we're just going to continue on until the end of that area. So no, we will continue on with the chain link. And the other thing that I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember off the top if the city of St. Albert gives us the opportunity to choose as a land developer, or if it is essentially required to be chain link.
I do believe it's chain link is the requirement, and it has to be varied if something else is desired. But generally speaking, all of our homes that back onto park spaces are chain link, and that increases that visibility into the park.
Great. Thank you, Shane and Amanda. The next question is, what is the timeline for building the White Spruce Park? And I can answer that. So this is part of our 10-year capital program, and the phase 1 of the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park is proposed for 2021. It is in the budget being deliberated for 2021 and will be decided in December. So the Grey Nuns White Spruce Park and the trail connection are all part of our 10-year capital plan. So again, it will depend on council approval for that. Okay. Okay, this next one, sorry, is will the developer go above and beyond the minimum park space allotment? So between Shane and Lenore. Shane?
Yeah, so too many buttons here. Yeah, so we currently are over dedicating above our 10%, but right now the number is extremely small. Lenore may actually even have that number, but we're 10.0 something. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's just sort of the way that it worked out as far as getting configurations at this point that work. But as we get further into detailed design, there's a little bit more flexibility where we can, stretch and increase here and there. But it's pretty hard usually to land right on 10%. So in the past, we've actually, in other communities, we've dedicated 11%. And again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you go over 400 acres, it does kind of add up. So.
Okay, Lenore, do you have something to add?
Well, I think it's important that GenStar has made their dedication as required by the Municipal Government Act. So they have met that requirement, and the area structure plan shows where those pieces are. And at subdivision is when we get the fine tuning. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Okay, this is for Shane again. Can you tell us what is going in the commercial development? Is that current first structure a liquor store? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, Shane. Yeah.
Sorry, somebody was quicker than I was. So Co-op Gas is under construction right now. They have been, I guess part of their mandate is they typically get the service station up and running, and they build their memberships through the service station and liquor store, I guess. And they're sort of anticipating right now within the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years actually, they'll start construction of the co-op grocer. So right now there is a building under construction. That is actually the liquor store. And I believe that there might be a commercial retail unit. So another, I'm not sure exactly what, but I think there might be another tenant in there at this point. And then speaking with Hopewell, so Hopewell is the developer of that specific site. They are anticipating as of September of this year that they're going to be starting another commercial retail unit building in the spring to summer of 2021. And they've got some tenants, but they weren't willing to share that with me at this time. They did say that there was a good chance that there will be a restaurant, a chain restaurant that they're looking at getting signed on the dotted line. So
Great.
that's all that I have for now.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you. Okay. This could be for Kirsten or Amanda. Can a non-rink surface be used on top of the U12 soccer field in the winter?
Which hockey rink type or
A
like a board?
non-rink surface,
Non-rink
so more of a social
social?
ice surface?
I'm not familiar with how St. Albert builds their ice services, but I would think that there'd be some potential for that, but certainly the room for it. So Amanda,
Amanda, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, I would suggest that if we wanted to put in a social ice surface, which is certainly possible for this site, that we would put it off the soccer field, only because social ice surfaces do tend to kill the turf, and it takes a while to get it to come back in. And our primary users for soccer fields are in that May-June timeframe. So we may we would probably just get too much damage if we were trying to lay a soccer field and a social ice surface on the exact same spot. But there is probably opportunity, depending on, again, whether rejigging amenities and removing other amenities to add a social ice surface to the design.
Great. Okay, this other one is for Jen Star, but I don't want us to get off track here in what we're wanting to talk about today. They're asking, can you try to get a cafe in? It would be great to have a local cafe with good food and coffee. Do you have any influence on that, Shane?
I do not, but I agree. I go out there often enough and I could always use a hit of coffee. The other thing that I wanted to just, and I'll try not to deviate for too long, but there is another commercial site just north of McKinney. It's about 4.4 acres. We have a contract with a commercial developer to purchase that one. And so we're going to see some more activity on that site within the next 2 to 3 years. They're a pretty aggressive developer. They like building the infrastructure so that they can sign on the dotted lines when the tenant is ready. So it's sort of build it first and then they get the tenants in after. And so they're pretty big. They've got a good relationship with Starbucks. Not to say that Starbucks will be out there, but you're going to find every need that you want in one of these two sites.
Great, thank you. Sounds like Riverside is going to be the place to live. Very exciting for everybody, really, in St. Albert. Okay, looks like one sort of last question, and Amanda, I'll ask you to answer this. Can the green space be added back into the southeast corner that goes to the river? So between Lenore and yourself?
Yeah, so I think in terms of adding additional municipal reserve or moving it, that requires another area structure plan amendment, would require the public process, council's agreement, the developer's agreement to do that. So at this stage with this project, that's not something that we could consider. That doesn't mean that GenStar might not consider it in the future, as they mentioned, but it is out of scope and not possible within this process.
Great, thank you. I'm just watching the questions. I think we're just about ready to tie things up here. Molly, who's one of the people in the back end, maybe just give me thumbs up symbol if you think that that's sort of the questions. Again, if we haven't been able to answer your question tonight, we will have information posted and answers on the project website. Please look there. We weren't able to answer them, or if they were out of scope, we wanted to be reflective of people's time and what they were here for tonight. So I think we're going to go to the very last. You guys have been great. Everybody's been hanging in there, so thank you. So last but not least, we really want to encourage you to get involved, and we want to keep you involved in the development of Riverside parks in the future. So first of all, to get more information and to get your feedback to us, and we can accurately capture the desires of the Riverside residents and understand your needs and concerns, please complete the survey. And this is the link for the survey. Please do that until December 8th. We want to hear from you. There's been lots of ideas today that we certainly want to hear from. So while the timing of the future park sites is currently unknown, except for Riverside, and those ones are really based on development of the neighborhood, we really look forward to working with you and working with the Riverside community in the design of Riverside Park, but also future park sites. So one of the ways you can make sure that you are kept up to date is to register on the website to receive updates, email notifications on the next steps. So we will be updating that, and that's a great opportunity for you to know the updates and also to receive information about future feedback opportunities. So we hope this has been valuable for yourself, and we think it's been very valuable to us. We've had lots of surveys completed already, so thank you very much for taking the time and being with us tonight. Good night.